My name is Sam Johnson. I'm the founder and director here at Impact Policy. I'm an adjunct senior lecturer in the School of Law and Justice at the University of New South Wales, and I graduated with first class honours in criminology. This is our submission to the Select Committee on Youth Justice in regards to the current inquiry. And I want to talk about a few sort of core insights with regards to how we think about young people in the justice system. So what we know here at Impact Policy to be true is that young people have a significant number of interactions with the state before they end up in the youth justice system, whether that's through child protection, justice, health. We know that over 65% of kids at any given time have experience in out-of-home care, are currently in the juvenile justice system in Australia today. And what that tells us particularly is how significant it is that we have a trauma-informed response to how we think about youth justice, and a significant investment into early intervention if we want to have a meaningful impact on reducing the youth justice issue in New South Wales today. So I want to talk about a couple of things based on what we know from evidence-based approaches with our work at Impact Policy, particularly with New South Wales, in regards to what we see working and working well. One of the most important ones that we see first and foremost is community-led responses. Community-led responses that are place-based to communities, to families, to country and culturally, we always see as having the most significant impact. We know that when programs are designed and led by our communities, particularly Aboriginal communities, that they're often much more effective. They're more effective at understanding the impact and also being able to measure what works in terms of intervention on the ground in our communities too. We know that in terms of a policy perspective, we work closely with the state with regards to policy design, and we know that policy design, when co-designed with lived experience alongside our communities, is the most critical way for having significant impact. Long gone are the days when policy is designed in isolation of the communities that they directly impact, and so we champion and recommend that co-design alongside our communities and those with lived experience is critical to being able to have the most significant impact in terms of building meaningful policy that can actively reduce the risk of young people being caught up in the justice system. And we know that early intervention is the most effective approach. We've talked about these interactions with the state prior to juvenile justice, and we know that early intervention is the most critical factor in terms of reducing the risk of that happening. What's most important though is that the factors around how we design early intervention, how we measure the impact of early intervention is done in consultation with the communities in which those programs are being delivered alongside. That's where we'll get the most significant data to know the investment of our response and our work is having the most tangible effect on the ground. So with regards to some core recommendations, particularly we want to talk about the Young Offenders Act. The Young Offenders Act spells out 3 pathways that a young person, can be deferred from the court and the justice system. And one of those is the Youth Justice Conference. Now, Youth Justice Conferencing was born out of an Indigenous model in New Zealand that was a community-led model that brought our communities together. It was based on young people being able to be brought before, for a harm that was caused alongside the victim, to be able to have accountability for that, and for their community to be able to have some leadership over what happened, in terms of how that progressed forward. When we adopted Youth Justice Conferencing in Australia, we fundamentally missed the most critical part of that process, which was it being community-led and accountable, and also trauma-informed. When the Young Offenders Act was written in 1997, there was little evidence and conversation and acceptance around the impact of trauma and the impact of trauma on offending. Today, it's widely known and accepted that the impacts of trauma have a significant and direct correlation between the risk of young people being involved in the justice system. So it's absolutely critical, if we're going to have diversionary pathways for young people, that they are trauma-informed, that they are an opportunity for therapeutic intervention for young people, particularly these young people that have had interactions with the state and have experienced trauma as young people. We're missing a significant opportunity to really address the impacts around why young people are getting involved in antisocial behaviour, committing youth crime, and starting to get engaged and in contact with the justice system. And if we really want to think about the impact of conferencing moving forward, then we need to start to think about how we shift some of the power away from the state, coordinating that as an early intervention mechanism, and giving that leadership back to our communities to be able to deliver as has been intended and as has been successful across a number of different Indigenous communities across the country, across the world. And so there's some of our core recommendations. Some others, like we've talked about, increasing investment into early intervention programs, embedding co-design with young people and families with lived experience, expanding community-led and place-based responses, and measuring success not by how systems respond to offending and offending behaviour and statistics, but by how effectively we're preventing contact with the criminal justice system in communities, places and countries where there maybe is a higher risk of that occurring. So that's our submission. My name's Sam Johnson. I'm from Impact Policy, and I welcome any responses to respond to the inquiry with regards to anything that I've talked about today. Thank you for taking the time to review our submission.